What's up, guys? So today is the 404th anniversary of the death of one William Shakespeare, and so I'm going to be going through and sort of listing my top 5 favorite plays of his. I have also linked below a website that has these 5 in it. If you want to see what the other 5 are, you can click the link below and look through timeout.com's 10 best Shakespeare plays of all time list. It's not their personal thing, they did a vote sort of thing. So yeah, I have not got mine in order of how I like them. I've got them in order as to how that website has them listed. So we're going to be going through them like that. So coming in at the lowest spot on this list, and this just really goes to show you the level of quality we're going with here. Coming out at the lowest spot on this list is Romeo and Juliet. Now for these, I'm gonna read the little blurbs and stuff they've got on them. So Romeo and Juliet was written in 1594. It's obviously about the children of mortal enemies falling for each other, and then doing desperate things for love. And why it's so good is it's the uber love story, the template of every tale of doomed romance ever written. Everything else is simply just a variation. And if we were doing this according to how I liked them, this would actually probably be closer to the top of this top 5 list than it is. It would probably be with first or second on my list. I really want to take this entire script and change the central emotion from being love to being fear, because I think that would be really cool. Obviously, certain bits of dialogue, etc., would have to change, but keeping the story as close to what it already is as possible, while simply just changing the emotion to something pretty much polar opposite to it, I think could be really cool. So yeah. Next on our list we have Twelfth Night. It was written in 1599, and it is about it's a romance romantic play about some cross-dressing twins and a shipwreck, and it starts off with probably one of my favourite lines out of all of Shakespeare. If music be the food of love, play on. That whole opening monologue by Duke Orsino is amazing. And why it's so good is there's a big grown-up comedy about identity and lost love that rewrites, supercharges and outclasses all his previous comedies. It is pretty good. I think it's probably worth mentioning. The 5 that I've sort of picked as my top 5 are actually the ones that I studied in high school. I do have an honourable mention that I'll get to before I reveal the top one. But Romeo and Juliet obviously was like the first one I did in school, because to me it's his most famous. Twelfth Night was the one that I did when I was studying drama in years 11 and 12 for my high school certificate. And so it was really cool to be able to go into that when looking at doing my major work. Next on the list, number 3, we've got Othello. I did this one in year, I want to say 10, but I think it was, no, this was year 11, I believe. So this was also high school certificate level, but this was written in 1604. Where the hell did that fly just come from? My window's open, but I've got the bug mesh on it, and he's just randomly just appeared. I don't know where he's come from. Anyway, Othello was written in 1604. It's about what happens when racial relations in the 16th century Venice don't go terribly well. And why it's so good: the most powerful play about racism ever written, but moreover a terrifying study on the destructive power of jealousy. Othello is pretty good. It would take probably 3rd position, purely because the way Kenneth Branagh played Iago in the 1990 something, I think it was 90. It was like early 90s, late 80s sort of era. Might even have been later than that. I don't know. But it was late 20th century anyway. And yeah, there's a film that has Kenneth Branagh in it. He plays Iago, and yeah, Iago's probably my favorite villain out of all the plays. And I think as testament to that, Iago's also the name of the parrot from Aladdin, so make of that what you will. Interestingly enough, that parrot also serves a similar role to Iago in this. He like whispers in the ear of Jafar, and eventually just leads Jafar to his downfall. Maybe they chose the name for a reason. I don't know. Number 2 on the list is, and it's also number 2 on this list as well, is Macbeth, written in 1605. It's about a Scottish lord who is persuaded to commit brutal murder by his wife, and who promptly gets all guilty about it. And it's so good because it's short, thrilling, and charged with the supernatural. This dark comedy is about the consequence of the Scottish lord's terrible lust for power, and it's probably Shakespeare's most modern and accessible play. It is also not the name of like unless you're actually performing the play, I'm pretty sure. You don't want to say the title of this play in a theatre, because of the fact that within the play, anytime someone says his name, terrible consequences happen to them, like they die, for instance. So it's seen as a curse. At least that's what I was told when I was studying drama. Do not invoke his name in a theatre. And so before I go on to number 1, I'm going to make my honourable mention. I studied Macbeth in, I think that was year 10, simply because of the fact that it's very violent. My honourable mention is Taming of the Shrew. It's not on this website's list at all, which makes me think that it might have come in at like number 11 or something. I don't know. But I did that when I was studying Extension English in year 11, and it was in a comparative study with George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, because they're both about taking the lead female character and sort of changing her from one thing to another. So in Taming of the Shrew, they change her from being very sort of rude and undesirable into someone that everyone's trying to like men are lining up to be her suitor, sort of thing. And in Pygmalion, they take basically this street urchin and they turn her into this very well-spoken, almost noble character. which I think's pretty cool. Yeah. Alright, so number 1 on this list is Hamlet, and I mean, with how famous his soliloquy is, where he's holding the skull to be or not to be, yeah, I can kind of see why this one's at number 1. Written in 1600, it's about a student who ponders the meaning of life when he should be on a killing spree. What an interesting premise. And it's so good because, as this puts it, what is there left to say about Hamlet? Its reputation is so towering it's hard to be objective about it, but this epic about a young man contemplating his own mortality while attempting to avenge his father is certainly a pretty hot contender for the greatest thing ever written in English. And yeah, but I mean, that just sort of goes without saying when you're talking about the Bard of Avon, Mr. William Shakespeare himself. But yeah, that's all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well, if you want to see more videos from me and be notified when I upload new ones. And yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what your favourite Shakespeare play is, especially if it was not one mentioned in this video. Would love to hear about that from you. And until next time, guys, keep your heads screwed on.